this is the last episode in our replay series. Next week on September 8th, we will be coming back with new content all about the Astroid Goddesses, why they matter to you, the feminine, your astrology, and revealing so much of what they can tell you about yourself and your birth chart. So I'm super excited for that. But right now, we're going to be talking about the heroine's journey. And this episode could not come at a better time. It is so kismet. Originally, when we filmed this episode and released it, we revealed that Kaylee was pregnant. She was 14 weeks along at that point. And right now, I am sitting in her house and we are waiting for this baby to arrive as we speak. In fact, I am sure when this episode airs that this baby will have been born. And I cannot believe that we are in this space on the other side of that and how much can change in less than 6 months. And we're all kind of in this liminal space right now. As Kaylee and I have been talking about this and this difficulty of waiting. Like when you're waiting for a baby, you're waiting for something to come through. And we've been doing all the things, walking around, filling up the birth pool, having fun, and at the same time feeling the waiting. And I feel like we're all on that precipice right now. Everyone is waiting. This is the time in the wheel of the year where we're transitioning. It's a huge transition period. For some, kids are going back to school or starting up homeschool again. For others, they are returning to jobs or you're getting a breath from doing the work that you're doing. We're transitioning from that heat of August into the cool of September. We're going into fall and we're all kind of in this space where we're holding our breath for something. We're waiting for that big exhale. We're waiting for the curtain to be lifted. We don't know what the rest of this year will hold. And in some ways, we're starting a new year and ending an old year all at once. And it can just feel like this space where we don't know what to do with ourselves. And I just encourage you to surrender to this time instead of being frustrated and fighting this time. This is the perfect time to talk about the heroine's journey because the heroine's journey is all about that space. In this episode, we reveal how it is different than the hero's journey and why it is actually so important to women to go on this journey. We do this through the modern example of Alice in Wonderland. We give you practical tips on how to go through this journey yourself, and we also share our own personal heroine's journeys so that you can understand how this works for everybody, for all of us, and for you. So I hope that while you're in this liminal space, you will take a breath and see the beauty that's all around you and realize that you're not just waiting. You're in this beautiful magic dark, this magic dark that's waiting to reveal something. And we can all use this opportunity to exhale and just be still, because I promise there's so much more coming on the other side of that door. But this time is just as important as the time of what's on the other side. So I hope you will deeply enjoy this episode about the heroine's journey. In lieu of Kaylee's pregnancy reveal, I got rid of that part so that this episode moves smoothly and we get into the heroine's journey a little bit quicker. If you want to hear that part of the episode, please jump back to episode number 28, the original, so that you can hear Jayanne be completely befuddled by all of our riddles as we reveal Kaylee's pregnancy. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy Podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, Jayanne Berenger, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kaylee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I'm Jayanne Berenger, your person extraordinaire. That's what it says in many places, even on my voicemail. Anyways, I've got Julie Dean Richards and Kaylee Rose here. As always, say hi, ladies.
Hello.
It's so good to be here. I am super excited to talk about this. We were talking about the heroine's journey, which is actually very different than the hero's journey. So it's a story that's rarely told and rarely modeled, but guess what? There's some information about this that could fully make you step into what it is you're looking for. good thing Julie is going to do most of the talking in this episode.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that birth is a archetype of the heroine's journey. So we can get into that more, but why don't we start by talking a little bit about the hero's journey, because people will be more familiar with the hero's journey. Let's let them know what it is, some archetypes of it, and then we can get into what the heroine's journey is. So who wants to start talking about the hero's journey?
We just talked about this beforehand. I think the greatest consensus on how to quantify that is literally any video game ever, right?
Yeah.
You have this moment of like being called to some kind of adventure, and then you don't want to do it, and then you do it anyways because some magic force requires that you do it, and then you overcome lots of obstacles like over and over again. And then win the maiden, or did I skip a step?
No, keep going.
Win the maiden, and then you go home, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's usually like a mentor involved. Did we talk about that? Right.
There's a mentor.
Like, think about Luke Skywalker. He gets Yoda, his mentor. He has to fight all these things. If you've ever seen the movie Hercules, even though it's not true to the actual myth of Hercules, you get the idea that, he's got to go down there. He finds out he's half God. He wants to become like God. So what does he have to do? He has to fight all these monsters. Hades keeps sending the monsters to him. He gets a mentor who's the half goat dude who comes and helps him. Phil. And then at the end, right, he has to do this daring feat and win the maiden. This is also present in Jason and the Golden Fleece. He brings back the fleece. That is basically the hero's journey. Do you have any other thoughts about that, Kaylee?
So, sorry, I'm not Kaylee, but I have a thought about this. And I'm going to cut you off if you're going to say something. One of the things I find to be the most interesting about the hero's journey is how it is such a natural expression of the feminine. So the hero's journey is about doing the hard things, doing the thing that is other, doing the thing that is opposite. Perseverance is a naturally feminine trait. We literally just give birth, right? Like, that's just part of life. And there is no choice in the perseverance of birth. It's just literally like, okay, this is happening to me and it's really hard and it sucks, but I'm going to be here for it. And then the part where there's a death to self that happens. And that is also natural in the feminine experience, is that we're in the cycles of life and we're dying to ourselves every day and we're being reborn. So, one of the things I've always loved about the concept of the hero's journey is how it is the masculine striving to have these feminine qualities, but we've put them on such a pedestal that it's like, these are just good qualities to have, and a total forgetting of how it's natural for the feminine to just do these things. And so the qualities that we're looking to do are reflected in the heroine's journey, and that's what I'm really excited to talk about today.
I have a thought. So as we were just discussing things, I was thinking about like growing up, and like, I'm a millennial. I believe you both are in the category of millennials. And I remember being told over and over again, like, you work really hard in school and you go to college and you work really hard there, and then you're going to get an amazing job. And it was very hero's journey, very like, you do these hard things, you apply yourself, you keep working hard, you prove yourself over and over and over again, and you'll have it made. And for me, unintentionally, like, grew up to be very much a people pleaser and very much I have to prove myself. I have to earn love by proving what I'm capable of. And I think a lot of girls experienced that in that time period, and boys. But I can only speak to my experience as a girl then, a woman now. And it's interesting how much that narrative ended up like dropping most of us on our faces, where so many of us are like, we went on the hero's journey. Even the men who went on the hero's journey, we got to the other side and it's like, wait a minute, where's the money? Where's the success? Where's the this? Like, where did it all go? And it just makes me think about how, if we're going on the hero's journey or the heroine's journey, looking for the wrong things, looking for what other people tell us we're supposed to be looking for instead of what our soul really longs for. And we're probably going to come out on the other side of things feeling like we got ripped off. like we were deceived. And as an adult, I've had to like redefine what I believe success is. And it does not look like that very masculine, very doing, very proving oriented version of success that I was taught to fight for my whole life. And so I love that we're almost like resurrecting an awareness of the heroine's journey, because it's a very different kind of experience where success is much more personal and much more individual to each person's experience. So I'm really excited for this episode.
Yeah, that's actually so perfect. I'm glad that you talked about that, Kaylee, because that's what I wanted to point out is, and just like Jayanne pointed out, it is everywhere. The hero's journey is everywhere. And for people who don't know, this was popularized, mostly like talking about the hero's journey in this way was popularized by Joseph Campbell. It has always been around. And when Campbell was asked about the heroine's journey, he said, well, women don't need a heroine's journey because they're the place that everyone's trying to get to. Everyone's trying to get to the woman at the end. And in some ways, there is some truth to that in this idea that, yes, for a woman, it's about, we've talked about this before, it's about waking up to your own power, realizing you are the lost princess, realizing you are, powerful yourself. You don't need this whole journey to tell you that. You just need to realize who you are. So in some ways, that's true. But actually, sorry, Joe, there actually is a legitimate heroine's journey. And it's actually in just as many myths. So when Joseph Campbell came up with this, he looked at a ton of different myths. He looked at a ton of different stories. He looked at patterns. And that's how he came up with the idea of the hero's journey and laid it out the way that he's laid it out. Other people have done work on this too, of course, but he's the biggest name in this realm. Now, the heroine's journey also is in just as many myths. It's in just as many stories and archetypes. We wrote down a few. We're only going to really dive into one of them. But just to give you an idea, like Persephone is the heroine's journey. Eve is the heroine's journey. Psyche is the heroine's journey. The handless maiden, the tale of the handless maiden, even Cinderella in some ways. And Inanna, she is also the heroine's journey. There are tons and tons and tons of archetypes of the heroine's journey. Even I was thinking Little Red Riding Hood. We haven't talked about that as much. But there is a heroine's journey. There is a pattern. And I personally, and I know us as a podcast, like I am on a mission to resurrect the heroine's journey because it is so important. Exactly like Kaylee said, like Jayanne said, it's important because we don't realize we've been sold this tale that if you just do, everything's going to be fine. You're going to make so much money. You're going to be successful. If you do the hero's journey, that's the only way to do it. And this kind of leads perfectly into the first phase of the heroine's journey, which is called the awakening or the initiation phase, which is personified by this idea of waking up to what I have been told is a lie, or lots of times this is like a call to the underworld, but this is some kind of realization that everything in your world is not what it seemed. So should we talk a little bit about that initiation phase, or do you want to go straight into the Alice in Wonderland archetype?
Let's talk about the initiation phase, and then we'll make the parallel to the story of Alice in Wonderland as we go through each of the phases. I think that would be really cool.
Why don't you start, Kaylee, talking a little bit about this initiation or awakening phase and some things that are part of it?
So with the initiation, there's often this call, there's this feeling. There could be something a little bit more external, but it seems a lot like there's this internal knowing, there's this intuition that something is not right, or there's something I'm supposed to connect with and I'm not. There's almost like an emptiness. And in this journey, sometimes the people that we have around us and care about will tell us, no, don't do that. That's not safe. Don't go there. Stay in what you know. Stay in what's tangible. And there may also be people or influences in your life who are like also supporting you and like, okay, yes, go deeper. Yes, there's something more. But it really comes down to, are you going to listen to all these different voices, or are you going to look inside of yourself and start listening to that voice? And that's like the clearest part of the initiation for me. Just having very clear moments in my life where there was an initiation into this process. It all started with this like deep inner knowing that I could not deny, at least not without starting to lose my mind. Is there anything you want to add to that, Jan or Julie?
Everything that Kaylee just said was true for me, right? I felt like there was this wisdom that was supposed to be handed to me that I just didn't get, and I was seeking that. And that's that and babies, right? Like, they wake you up.
Yeah, I was going to say also with this, like the way I see it manifest in many, many women is kind of what you talked about a little bit, Kaylee, was, hey, I did everything you told me to and it didn't work. Hey, I did the masculine thing. Like, I got so many achievements. I did what I was told. I people pleased till the cows came home. Even like women who, because I worked corporate for a long time, so did Jan. You see those power women who are on the top of the chain and like they've worked their way up, or even in law school, some of these professors that I had who, she was doing law as a woman when it was not okay for women to do law, right? Like to be in that sphere. And they do everything that they're supposed to do. They do everything the masculine way. They win the achievements. And then they realize one day, like, oh my gosh, I'm still broken. I'm so burnt out. I'm not successful the way this success means nothing to me. A lot of times it's like what Jan said, like there's this emptiness of like something was supposed to happen, but it didn't. Like I didn't get this information, or like this success actually means nothing to me and it should have meant something to me. So I see that so much, that women try so hard to be masculine and then one day it just breaks for them. And then the other case study that I see, which I think is present in both, is like something happens to you that should not have happened. Like when you have a baby, right? Like this can be like something comes into your life and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to change the way I do things because now I'm going to have a baby. Or like I have this illness now, like my thyroid doesn't function anymore. I've got to figure out how to fix this. Like there's something that breaks you that's like, okay, I have to do something different. And I did want to touch on also that the other people stuff that you said, Kaylee, like other people coming into your life and they're like, don't go down the rabbit hole. Don't do it. Don't investigate that. Don't get too weird, like don't go over there. You can't trust that kind of stuff. That's something that everyone experiences. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have experienced it or are experiencing it now. Someone worrying, you're getting too woo-woo, you're getting too in the weeds, and just knowing that's going to be part of your journey. Sometimes these people can be mentors and helpers to us. Sometimes they're helpful, but just watching out for that piece. Sorry, Jan, you looked like you wanted to say a thing.
Apparently I did. So are we talking about the descent yet? Because it sounds like you're going there. And this whole concept of like the slippery slope and the fear of the slippery slope and the fear of like, oh, you're being led astray and all of these things. And that is actually the start of the descent, I think.
Yeah, it
going
is.
Down the rabbit hole.
It is. Yeah. So I guess we should compare this to Alice because we're going to be talking about Alice and Wonderland. Most people know this movie or have seen the movie or read the book. They know the tale. So what would you say is the initiation for Alice?
Alice is really different, She's talking about all these like weird things and these dreams she's had, and she's being read to by this lady who we don't really know the relationship, but she knows she's supposed to listen to her, but she really doesn't want to. And she's just like, imagine a world where there's like all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, the part of it, that awakening, is that imagination. Like, imagine this. Like, how cool would that be? And then eventually she goes and sees those very things that she says that are completely weird and that you wouldn't see in the 3D world. But then she goes and sees those things later on. But I think that's part of it is this connection to nature. And then this like, okay, this lady's boring and I'm going to go take a nap now.
Yeah, I think that's all part of it. I was going to say when she sees the white rabbit, right? Like seeing that white rabbit. Mm-hmm. Is like the initiation phase. Were you going to say that, Kaylee?
No, I wasn't. I was just pondering like what you guys were saying, but like that white rabbit, it just like, honestly, it does make me think of like, well, there's an intuition. Mm-hmm. There's a something that's come in that's like, can anyone else see this? Can anyone else sense this? I cannot deny that this is here and I cannot deny the pull to follow it.
The rabbit specifically, that imagery is synonymous with heading to the underworld in many cultures. Like regardless of like the Alice in Wonderland story, even before that, this was an animal being that could go to both sides.
Yeah, because rabbits live under the ground, but they're often on, up on the ground, right? They have these rabbit holes that they live in, which leads us into, so then everyone knows the story. She follows the rabbit and then she falls down the rabbit hole. And this is the descent. So let's talk about the descent phase of the heroine's journey. Do you want to talk about the descent, Kaylee?
Sure. So you guys can absolutely add in your thoughts on this, but it seems like the descent is always a little disorienting because there are things that you start sensing, things that you start experiencing where it's like, is this the real world? Like, am I still on planet Earth? Like, what is happening right now? And maybe simultaneously, there's this sense of familiarity as well that contributes to the disorientation, because it's like, I've never seen this before, and yet somehow it's familiar. And in that descent, I think that's when we start having to face, like, what's actually real? What in my life was real, and what was I just going along with? And what in me is real? And what is a mask that I've put on to protect myself, or is something that I've lived because somebody else told me I needed to live it? And just this examining of, like, what is the fabric of reality? Is there a fabric of reality? What is it? And I think Alice really experienced that on her way down the rabbit hole.
For me, it felt like I was living in a washing machine during that time frame. I literally did not know which way is up, especially because I was pulling out all these like limiting beliefs at one time. Like, it was the course of like 3 to 5 months. And I was just like removing all these things that I held to be like virtuous and true and like put my safety on. And I was ripping them out, and I was going, okay, where is my safety? Where is up? Where is down? And felt like I was living in a washing machine, and I knew it. And that was my mental picture for myself during that time. And it required me to go, what's true for me, right? That's the difference. And you can't land until you find the things that are true for you. But the whole time, the way down, you're like, whoa, hold on. This isn't true anymore. This is only true sometimes. This is only true sometimes. What else is only true sometimes? Is anything true ever? And is there such thing as universal truth? And that's a big, scary question.
Yeah, this descent phase is often like that, right? Sometimes it's the longest phase because it is the most disorienting and it is the most difficult. But this step of the journey is often personified by, like Jan said, and exactly what Kaylee said, stripping off old beliefs, right? Getting rid of all the old beliefs, getting rid of what you thought was true, re-examining what you think. A lot of this too is getting rid of like the shame, the pain, the programming that we go through, no matter what. And I think people get scared about the word programming, or like, how dare you say I was programmed? But every human being on this earth is programmed. Like, it doesn't matter. The program can be benevolent or not, or both. And most of the time it is both. Like, it has programming no matter who you are. Or in human design language, often they call this conditioning. Like, we all get conditioned to some extent. It's just the way it is. But during this time, you're deconstructing that programming. You're deconstructing the conditioning. You're asking yourself questions, and you're really just, all the layers get peeled off. And I think we do have to make a caveat because no one talks about this. Like, because this is like what I get so passionate about this. I'm like so passionate. But because we don't talk about this, and because we don't relay this ancient wisdom, when you go through it, it can feel so lonely. Like, you can feel so alone. Like, no one understands you. No one gets you. You can't talk to anyone. You try to talk to people about stuff. They get angry at you, because they get triggered, and then it just becomes this whole thing. And sometimes people get stuck there. I want to say, like, sometimes people get stuck in this descent phase, and they get depressed, or there's just like this deep phases that are really hard. But just, if you're in this phase, I just want to give that, like, there will be an other side. There will be it's all a cycle. Like, I promise you, if it's so dark right now, it will get brighter. You will find yourself, like, don't worry, this phase does not last forever, and you can work yourself through that. I just wanted to give that caveat because I have seen people get really disheartened in this phase. And I hope that's like why we're making this. Like, that's why we're having the podcast. That's why Kaylee and I made our school. That's why JN does our membership, is because we want people to feel supported during this and be able to do this piece and have their own descent. So anyway, that's a lot of me talking about. It's the descent. And Alice, obviously, it's her falling down. She falls all the way down. She gets to the underworld. So after that, what happens is the search phase. So Jan, do you want to talk about the search a little bit?
Yeah. So part of it is what I was getting at before was like, who the heck am I? What is it that I actually believe? What do I value? This is why I created like so many different programs, but especially a couple, because it's like with asking who your identity is, you first of all have to remove everything that's not you. You have to identify what is you and what is not you within your identifications, and you start to go, this is a mask coming off, this is another mask coming off. I need this mask, but I don't have to identify my person with this mask, right? Like, this is a translator thing that I'm doing. And the search is about turning everything on its head. It's about turning all of these things that you once held true to be, well, what is true? What is real? Is there anything that's real, right? That's the search. Is there anything that's real? Is it and what have I been hiding from myself about myself that I haven't been experiencing? And that's where shadow work comes in. That's where finding these beautiful gems about yourself comes in, because it's like, oh, I had shoved this part of me into the shadow, believing that it was bad and wrong and evil and stupid. And turns out this is actually the greatest part of me. And somebody had a bad reaction and I reacted to their reaction. And now I can bring this back and reclaim that. So there's a lot of reclamation happening. There's a lot of identification happening. It's a whole thing. And you said that it comes with the labyrinth as a piece of this. The labyrinth is about walking a circuitous route to find the truth. And it's not going to be a straight line, and it's not going to be obvious. And it sometimes might be like what they call a total mind F, right? It's like walking the route of like becoming a fish, becoming aware of the existence of water. Like, this is weird. I didn't know that this was a thing that is separate from like the general, like it's just magic becoming real too. Anyways, I'm gonna just stop talking for a second. That is a big piece of it. And when Alice goes through Wonderland and sees all of these things, everything is becoming something different. That's this part. She's mentally turning things on its head and saying, is this still a flower if it sings a song? Do flowers sing songs? Maybe they actually do, and I haven't been listening. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I have a few thoughts. So, as you were talking, Jan, it just popped into my head the word experimentation. I think the search is a lot about experimenting, a lot of like trying things on for size and acting as if, like trying on this thing that seems like a persona to see if, wait a minute, that's actually coming from inside of me. Like, that's actually me. That's not something coming from the outside. With experimentation, it can be easy to come at experimentation with fear, because we all have this illusion of like control and that we must control things. And you can't always control things with experimentation. But if we're able to approach experimentation with curiosity and like compassion, and even this little bit of the almost childlike wonder, maybe return to that maiden archetype a little bit and be like, wow, what happens if, and what happens if this? And what if I actually am confident? How would that change things? How would that feel? What if I actually like do know what I want? What does that feel like? What if I actually like want to travel the world and I never realized it till now? Or what if I'm totally content being at home and working in my garden and I never realized that before now? Just this playing. It's a form of play. And if we look at it that way, it feels less heavy. It feels less life or death. And I don't know. I think of the concept as like the dark night of the soul, and how people are like, that sucks. It's so hard to go through the dark night of the soul. And I'm not 100% convinced that it always has to feel that heavy. Like, maybe sometimes it needs to feel that heavy, but I don't know that it always does. And in that search, I think there can be some lightness and some playfulness if we are not afraid of letting parts of ourselves die. Or if we are afraid and we're like, and I'll be okay. This is how it's supposed to work. I think about birth and my experiences with birth, and the thing that always like helps me, no matter how worried I am about one thing or another, or no matter how intense something gets, is this idea of like, I was made for this. Like literally my body was made to do this. I can't consciously mess this up. And when I approach life that same way, like I was made for this. I was made to experiment. I was made to have these experiences. I just have to be and be in it and experience it. And like, there's a baby on the other side. There's treasure on the other side, literal or metaphorical. There's something that you want on the other side of just trusting that you were actually made to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I so agree. I love what both of you have said about experimentation, bringing this in, trying things on, getting rid of things. In one of these archetypes, Inanna, right, she has to pass through 9 gates when she goes down. And each time she has to give something away. She has to give up something. She has all this armor on, right? Like she's got a bracelet and she's got a breastplate and she's got a necklace and a crown. And like sometimes this process is, we have to give up, like Jan said, like give up these old things that aren't ours and give away the breastplate, like all this armor that we've been wearing that we thought was keeping us safe, but really like it was just rotting our skin underneath because we didn't air it out, right? Like we didn't take off this armor and we didn't experiment and become part of this childlike part of us, right? Like kids don't wear armor. I mean, maybe sometimes when they play, like, but kids jump around, right? Like they frolic in the trees and the flowers, they let themselves be free in that way. And I think we can think about this search piece as that it can be joyful in that same way. And it can be fun. It can also be daunting. It can feel scary to take off your armor. It's everything at once. But now that we're like peeling back all the layers, like this is an opportunity for you to find like, what do I stand? Who am I? Who am I under all this stuff? Like, who am I and who's the true me? And I have personally been like going through this experience in like a very literal and visceral way. And one day maybe we'll do a whole podcast on that. If I ever get to the end of my journey, we can do it. But I would say like this is where the body is so important. The body is like so important in this process. Your physical body being embodied and like letting yourself actually get into your body and feel things and do things and have things. And so for Alice, we see during this middle portion, right? She's following all the signs. She runs into the Cheshire Cat. She does this mad tea party, all the while she's looking for what? The white rabbit. She's looking for herself. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Where am I? And she's just following until she can find that peace. Hey friends, it's Julie. I'm just popping in here real quick to tell you about a very special invitation we have for you. If you have been feeling deeply called to learn more about your feminine identity or to see what feminine power really is, or you're just loving the podcast, then Kaylee and I would love to invite you to join our community, Feminine Alchemist. Inside, we host live monthly women's circles, challenges, and Wheel of the Year celebrations. They are seriously so much fun. We have monthly workshops where we bring in experts to teach on anything from menstruation to mythology. You'll also get access to our library of courses about astrology, intuition techniques, sacred embodiment, and cyclical living. And most importantly, you'll be able to connect with women who are like-hearted and walking the same path as you. So if this sounds exciting to you, join today by clicking the link in the show notes or going to femininealchemist.com. That's alchemist spelled M-Y-S-T. Okay, back to the episode. The fourth stage would be the ascension piece, right? And Alice finally finds the white rabbit at the end of this, and then there's an ascension piece. And some other myths, this is when you're presented with the key to your wholeness. You get this key, and then you can ascend. So what is this ascension piece about? Does anyone want to speak that, maybe?
So it feels like waking up to your actual power and recognizing that your wholeness is important and powerful and amazing. And for me, it literally felt like the sunshine coming out after a storm. I felt like that in micro ways, but there was a point where I was like, oh man, like I can see straight again. And I'm seeing instead of thinking about what I'm seeing. Like that's a big shift that happens when you're more embodied. And for me, it was also like you hit the nail on the head. I think everybody was like nodding aggressively about the embodiment piece being so important and the feeling in your body being so important, because for some people that awakening piece is chronic pain. And the more that you step into this journey and the more that you end up coming through this journey, the better your body feels, period. Just so great. But coming out of that, and you look back and go, well, that was kind of a fun ride. That was more fun than I expected. When I started falling, I was freaking out and I was doing the searching. It was a little weird. And then you come out of it and you're like, yeah, I should have had more fun doing that.
And even if it wasn't fun, even in hindsight, there's so often the sense of like, I wouldn't undo that because of what I gained. Like if I had to give back what I learned and the experience, the richness of that experience, I wouldn't do it. Even if it meant I didn't have to pass through the pain or the confusion or the disorientation, it was worth it. Mm. And I think it's funny that like we started this conversation talking about Joseph Campbell and his work on the hero's journey, because one of my favorite quotes in the world, and I've brought it up before on the podcast, is by Joseph Campbell. And it's, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And I'm like, that right there is the heroine's journey. The cave you fear to enter, the thing that terrifies you, is the path into the truth of who you are. And whatever it is that you most long for, it's on the other side of that. And so this ascent piece, I think, has a lot to do with like, okay, you're coming up into the quote unquote real world. You're coming up into the normal day-to-day life world. And are you going to bring what you learned with you? Are you going to let it be a part of you? Are you going to be yourself now that you're back in the environment where you used to have all this armor? Are you really going to be raw and vulnerable and powerful in the places where you used to be hidden and armored up and not yourself?
Haley, I have to say that the intensity of the truth of that is so funny to me, because my greatest fear as a child was of the supernatural. Here I am, an energy healer, and I'm working with all flavors of the supernatural. But it was my greatest fear. And so I ended up walking through that fear, and it found my greatest power, right? It was just like so succinct. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that's super beautiful and potent. And it is this like, okay, now you've got to take it all, bring it all together. You know, how are you going to embody what you've found? How are you going to use this key to help other people? Oftentimes the ascent is characterized by like teaching other people. And what do people want to do? It's seriously like, once you've been through a journey like this, you just want to give your wisdom to other people. You know, you just want to tell them, you want to help them, you want to teach them. And that's like part of this ascent piece is like, bring all the knowledge you gained from the underworld and give it to other people and fully embody yourself. And I think it's really important to say, so comparing this to Alice, right? She finally stands up to the queen. She says, no, I'm not going to do it. And she's like, you're just a pack of playing cards. That's often where the play ends, is she says that and all the playing cards fall down. But she comes back and she wakes up and she's back in the upper world. And now she's gained this knowledge, right? She's done all the things and she's gained the knowledge from being in that space and finding her way. And so it is very much of like that, bringing back that knowledge. But I do want to say, and I think this is implied, but so women, this is called the spiral path. It's really important to address this, right? Women walk a spiral path. We are cyclical beings. We work in cycles. So, sorry, Charlie, you have to go on this journey many, many times. And this journey is cyclical, right? Like this journey. And I want people to think about, if you haven't thought about it, please go look up like a top spinning or a spiral spinning. But if you watch a spiral spin, you'll see that it looks like it simultaneously goes in, like down and up at the same time. And that's the whole point of this. You have to descend to ascend. descend to ascend. You got to spiral and spiral and spiral. And so this path never ends. Like, you are constantly on the heroine's journey. And because it's cyclical, you can be in two places at once, baby. You can be across the way, right? Maybe you're teaching someone, you're in the ascent phase, teaching someone else who's gone through what you're going through now. And simultaneously, you're falling down the rabbit hole, another place that you've found that you need to go on this journey. And so this journey is a continuous loop, whereas often what we are sold with the hero's journey is it's a one shot, you're done, right? Like, they lived happily ever after. He got the girl and they were happy forever. They did the thing. And that's just not the way that it works. We're constantly spiraling and progressing.
Can we talk about, because we talked about the naysayers, the people who are like, no, you really shouldn't do that. Don't be crazy. Don't be weird. But at what point, because I can tell you a specific set of people who were in the right place at the right time for me to get the exact knowledge that I needed. And it was clearly divinely inspired. Like, there was no way I could have, like, there was no coincidence allowed, right? So can we talk about how, yes, it can be lonely, but there are also guideposts along the way in this journey at times?
Yeah, I love that. Do you want to talk about that first, Kaylee, or do you want me to go?
Like, what's coming to mind for me right now, I'll just say something really quick, and then I really want to hear what you have to say about it. It's just this idea of like assembling a council to like guide you. And some people do it more consciously, and some people do it at the beginning, at that initiation phase. But I think sometimes we do it less consciously. We attract those people or those energies to us on a more unconscious plane, and then they show up with divine timing or almost magical seeming timing, and we may not pull them to us, attract them to us until some other part in the journey besides the initiation. But there's definitely that council kind of idea as part of this journey, and Julie knows way more about this than I do as far as the goes.
No, I mean, I think that was beautifully put. Always, so in the way that we do this in the school is when we take you through the initiation phase, we have you assemble your council, which I think is vast for, I don't care who you are. It's very important to have a council. Everybody needs a council. Everyone needs someone they can look to and that they feel comfortable sharing their journey with. And that council can be a spiritual council. Like, you can ask ancestors to come with you. You can ask your version of deity to come with you. You can ask guides, animals, whatever you want to come with you and to be part of your council, whatever you feel comfortable with. And the council can also be physical, right? Like, you can have your own, another way of saying this is like your board. You can have your own board of trustees, right? Like, you can have your own council that helps you, and those can be physical people, and that council will come to you. And you'll also find, like Jan said, right, like for Alice, she had the Cheshire Cat, which sometimes seemed to be leading her astray, even though he was telling her the truth, right? Like, he would smile at her and she would mix up the signals and the communication, but he was always trying to guide her. And I think there will always be in our journey, there, it will feel dark, but there will always be those guideposts. And sometimes we don't recognize the knowledge when it gets to us right then. Like, sometimes what happens for people, right, is like you've met someone 10 years ago and then they come back to your mind and you're like, oh my gosh, that person was talking about that thing. I wonder if I can find that person again and reconnect to their work, or like reconnect to that old friend from high school. Or sometimes it comes up that way. Other times you specifically fall into and find somebody's work and or someone in general, like a friend, and they just speak to your soul, because that always happens, right? You're always, the guidepost will come, right? The North Star will come, and it's always there. Like, I think that's why we talk about astrology so much, because it can be like a little bit of a counsel, like a little bit of a guidepost to let you, like, okay, look up there. You're always being guided. Look up. So yeah, that's definitely part of this journey. Don't feel like you need to be alone. And that's why we're creating this, as to create community for just this purpose.
I love this. Thank you. I'm glad that we are talking about counsel, because it can feel very lonely. One of the greatest imageries as I've gone through any iterations of this kind of journey is the imagery of the geese. Because when the geese are flying south for the winter, every goose has to make their own journey. Each one is doing its own flying. It's carrying its own self. but they're all together and they're like, we're together. And it's like, oh, do you need a break? Okay, we're going to go down, take a break. You know, each goose has its own journey, but no goose is alone when they're doing this. And they are helping each other, right, with aerodynamics and all of that to do a much better journey than if they had done it alone. But the geese was a really powerful imagery in the very first time that I went through this process.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I also think I have found for myself going through iterations of this as well is that like guides will just show up for you. Like that happens. And oftentimes, sometimes those guides, this is a little bit more out there. And I don't think people are familiar, although we once were. Like anciently, we were once more familiar with this. But sometimes guides show up in the form of symbol, you know, and sometimes that symbol is an animal. Sometimes that symbol is just a symbol that we have to understand. And for me, a big part of like this more recent like journey that I've been on is this idea that, okay, I've got to embody these symbols. I've got to embody these divine feminine symbols. And for me, it started with studying the lotus flower and how the lotus flower comes up out of the muck, right? And like breathes that air, and then moving on to the dragon and embodying the dragon and understanding what does the dragon look like. Recently, the jaguar, right? Like going through each of these pieces, and you'll find that they don't always come this way, but symbols are so lovely, and archetypes can do this for you too. Like sometimes you'll find an archetype coming up over and over again. Someone will keep talking about something. You'll just like ping, ping, ping. And if you hear something multiple times, I think we're trained as humans to understand this. But just to confirm for everyone, if something keeps coming up multiple times, like the universe is trying to get a message to you. It's trying to help you to work with that, right? Like it's trying to help you understand that concept, whether or not that's triggering you, whether or not that's guiding you. Like they all have a purpose, like things come up for a reason. But I think it's really important, this idea, symbols are so helpful and archetypes are so helpful because they're tangible. They're tangible. Like that's why we're talking about Alice in Wonderland, because oh, we've seen that movie. We understand that movie. Okay, I can now picture this in my mind, what this is like. So archetypes come in all shapes and sizes, and they're so important because they help us to dig in and understand how we can do this ourselves. And we do have the archetype queen here, Kaylee Rose, and I would love to hear her take about archetypes as well in this journey.
So I really love archetypes. And something that I think is so important about archetypes is just this idea that they're a pattern, they're an image, they're a feeling that exists in all of us, and that ties us all together. And like, yeah, my experience of the archetype of the mother, or protectress, there we go, getting the word out, or the maiden, or the wise one, like may not look exactly the same as your experience of that archetype, but there is this common thread that ties us together. And that can be a very empowering thing. But also, I love how archetypes can be so personalized. Like my embodiment of an archetype is not going to be the same as Julie's embodiment of that archetype. And my embodiment of an archetype is not going to be the same in 2 weeks from now as it is today, depending on my experience. And when we don't have an example of something in our physical lives, we don't have a human being who is showing us how to live a certain energy or a certain pattern, we can turn to those archetypes. Those archetypes live in story. They live in myth. They live in the movies that we watch and the books that we read. They live in the stories that we make up as children and the stories that we make up as adults, if we allow ourselves to still make up those stories. And it gives us something to model ourselves after when we're trying to remember a part of ourselves that we've cut off. And that's so valuable to this whole journey. The whole heroine's journey is that, oh, I'm remembering by seeing it somewhere, sensing it somewhere, and then starting to embody it. And in the embodiment process, it's like, oh, wait, that was always there. I just forgot.
I'm going to ask you, you can say no if you don't want to share this, Kaylee. But this weekend, you shared something with me that I thought, man, like this is such a visceral example of like how archetypes work when we're talking about the dancing and the Madonna And yes, do you want?
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. What did I tell you? I told you a lot of things. What are you talking
Yes.
about? Okay. Yeah. So in my like the somatic training that I have, we talked about this concept of like women are culturally told you can either be a Madonna or a whore. Like you can be this perfect person, the wife, the mother, like doing it all right and doing it, being good, or you can be this wild woman and you can have lots of fun and you can do things that society maybe thinks is questionable, but you're going to have a good time doing it. And just exploring the idea that no, like we are both. There does not have to be this disconnect between the Madonna energy and the whore energy, that they can be together. And so to get us to really embody this concept, we were given the task of selecting music that really connected, like each of us individually had to select music that like, okay, yeah, that's Madonna music. That makes me feel connected to the archetype of the Madonna. And then find music that is like, okay, this really connects me with that like whore energy. And when I'm talking about whore, what I mean is very connected to sense, sensuality, and eros, like that life force that is connected to sexuality, that is connected to sensuality, that is connected to rage, all these things that we're told are not palatable, especially for women, like that's in the whore. And so I selected my music and then I had to record myself dancing as the Madonna, as the embodiment, my embodiment of the Madonna. And then I had to record myself dancing as my embodiment of the whore. And then I had to select music, 18 minutes worth of music at least, that was like, okay, this is both. This is both the Madonna and the whore. And then I had to dance and record it. Dance for at least 18 minutes, showing first, okay, this is the Madonna and this is the whore and this is Madonna and this is the whore. And then this is me weaving both together. This is me integrating the two. And it was astonishing how simultaneously difficult that was to keep dancing for 18 minutes and how easy it was once I really tapped into my own body. And it was very healing in a lot of ways. And I was actually like super pregnant at the time. So it was like kind of fun to be like dancing that much in this very like, yeah, I'm the Madonna, but yeah, I'm also the whore physical body. And yeah, it was powerful in a way that just talking about the concepts can't be.
Haley, I just have to say that as you were talking and telling this story, I got all of these like flashes of how nourishing that specific segment was for so many women. Like I just saw people like sitting in their car going, holy crap. So that was really cool to see that while you were talking, and everything you just said, it felt like that too. It was just super nourishing, like on a soul level of integrating those two parts of ourselves. Thank you for sharing that so much.
Hey friends, it's Jayanne here. If you have been feeling really stressed out about the world lately, you are not alone. There's been enough crazy and fear flying around the internet that even I've been knocked off my rocker sometimes. But it's times like these that I'm really grateful for the tools I have to regulate my nervous system. I developed these tools for myself when I was going through the thick of it. My babies were young and I had a ton of repressed anger. And these tools helped me through other stressful times, including negotiating my own divorce, having difficult money conversations, and of course, the whole COVID experience. And I've put all these tools in a method I call the authentic self-care method. This is different than other self-care programs because it is a framework for you to find your special sauce when it comes to self-care. And let me tell you a secret. Step 1 is not take a bath, get a haircut, or go to the gym. Step 1 is regulate your nervous system. And that's exactly what we do inside the 3-in-1 membership. This powerful program includes focused journals and meditations you can do in just a few minutes, like the fight or flight session, the hippocampus session, which rewrites your ability to see new possibilities, and the vagus nerve session, which helps you regulate your whole body in a crisis. Using these tools, members have reported feeling more empowered, more expansive, and many experience relief from actual physical pain, all for less than $2 a day. So join the 3-in-1 membership now so you can learn these tools today. The world is not going to become less crazy. The only thing you can control is how you respond to it. The 3-in-1 membership will help you do that, so click the link in the show notes to enroll today.
I think every woman is kind of on this journey, and she's working through this piece of understanding, how do I play all these different roles, and how wonderful archetypes can be for that. And like we said before, embodying those archetypes. And when we say embodying, because I think there'll be people who will listen to this and they'll be like, I don't know how. Like, I literally have no idea how to do that. I would like to say, and I know, I'm sure both of you have plenty of things to say, because I was thinking, okay, at the end of this, we're getting closer to the end of wrapping this up. We should probably leave people with some tools. So this is like the first tool we should talk about, is this embodiment piece and archetypes, which is, I'm going to do this the Capricorn way, which is the very practical way to do this. And you think about an archetype, okay? So this can be someone that you have seen in the movies, someone you've read about, a myth, a story. Maybe it's Alice in Wonderland because we talked about her. Maybe it's your favorite character in your book. Maybe it's Hermione, whatever, whoever it is. Choose someone and choose them because you want to be more like them. There's something about them. Either you want to be more like them, or there's something about them that really bugs you that you're trying to let go of and release. This can also be a person in your life if you want it to be, if that person embodies something, right? That you're like they drive me crazy, or they're so awesome. Like maybe there's someone you look up to and you're like, I really want to be like them. So pick that person, study them a little bit. Okay, what are the characteristics of that person? You know, what are they like? And then become an actress for a minute and act like them in your body and with your body. You can do this all alone. You can do this when you go out with your friends. You can do this at your dinner table. You can do this whenever, but pretend to be that person. That's what we're saying. Pretend to be that person in your body with your physical body. This can also be an animal. Okay. Done this before, talked about it. Become an animal, right? Like if you're like, I'm feeling the jaguar, be the jaguar. What is it? And like, this doesn't have to be you on all fours being like, rawr, rawr. If you don't want to do that, maybe you do, and it could be great. But also, this could be you being like, if a jaguar was a person, what would that jaguar do or say in this situation? If a dragon was a person, how would that dragon act? And then act like it. And I know this is like, I'm not an actress. I don't know how to do the things. Yes, you do. You totally do. You've been doing this since birth. You have. You've been putting on more masks than you've ever known that you've been putting on for your whole life. So try it and feel what it feels like in your body, because we are all one. Like we all have all of it inside of us. We all have all the 12 zodiac signs inside of us. We all have all the types inside. We all have everything inside of us, and connect to that piece and it will help you realign. Okay, so that is my breakdown. Ladies, please tell us the tools and the ways.
I would say everything that Julie said is beautiful. Also, find yourself in the story. If you don't know what's going on, or like look for weirdness, look for oddities, like things that are specifically weird to you, where it's like this specific person with this specific name or color of scarf showed up in your life and did this weird thing that only you would understand from your past. Like it's like, no one knows this much about you, but the universe does. And the way forward, like that is a sign, like beckoning you. So if you're getting some like oddities and weirdnesses happening like that, not just like synchronicities, like, oh yeah, I wanted this thing and then this person showed up in my life and then I got it. It's like something really oddly specific to you is happening that's very weird. You're probably on this journey and maybe you don't even know it. So kind of figure out what's been going on in your life in the last, amount of time and start to figure out like, where in this pattern are you? And that is going to give you a lot of information about what you're supposed to do next, right? If you feel like you're falling, you're in the descent stage, and what you're meant to do is just let go, literally just surrender. If you're in the searching stage, then you are on a journey of looking for stuff. So kind of figure out where you are in this journey and you're going to have more clear instruction on what's next, because the end of the day, logic is going to mean nothing when you're on this journey. There is no logic. Everyone's going to be like, oh, you're not doing anything logical. Well, like, then you're doing the right things, because nothing's going to make any version of sense. Nothing about any of this makes sense. The hero's journey is very logical. It's you do this, then you do this, then you do this. The heroine's journey is so illogical and it's so confusing. And if you're confused, you're probably doing it right.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you there, Jan. And also, like, for those of you who are listening, if you still find yourself saying, like, I can't imagine pretending to be that person or pretending to embody a dragon, or I can't assess where I'm at on this journey. I just cannot wrap my brain around it. My advice to you would be to choose a normal situation that you go through often, that's very familiar to you, and then do something different than you normally would in that situation. So if you get home from work, say, and you would throw down your keys and hang up your jacket or your purse or whatever, and then go start making dinner, I invite you to instead go for a walk around your house before you walk in the door, or something else that disrupts the normal pattern of your life. If you would normally go sit on the couch and watch a show before you go to bed, instead, I don't know, do anything else, anything that is not your normal routine, and it will start to open you up to possibility. And you'll start to see things that you didn't see before, because you're experiencing things outside of the patterns that are so entrenched you don't even really notice them. And you'll be practicing that sensitivity required to sense where you're at in the journey, to be able to utilize your imagination and your body to embody things. Like, that's a really good starting point. Disrupt the status quo even a little bit.
Exactly how you rewrite your brain patterns too. Anytime you're wanting to like create new habits, you've got to do like weird random stuff wrong, or it doesn't work very well, right? Like, put your deodorant on with the wrong hand, use the mouse on your wrong hand. You're going to start like rewriting actual like brain patterning. So yes, I love this. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, that's really important. And if you're looking for more tools in how to do this journey, from what we've already said, we have so many episodes that would be helpful with this, but go to look at our shadow work episode. That will be very helpful, and go look at our witch wound episodes, because those will be helpful for some of the wounds coming up. Those are all at the beginning. I mean, they're the one we did on Lilith, like literally 1,000, all of our episodes will be helpful for this. But go back, especially if you're in that descent phase, the shadow work piece is probably going to be really, really helpful for that one particularly. If you are struggling, if this is like a physical struggle, the one that Jan did on self-care can be really helpful. So we've got tons of episodes. Look back through and see what you're attracted to, because that's tons of help right there. And then, of course, there are the tools that we provide. Jan has the 3-in-1 membership that she does, where she gives you tons of tools to help settle your nervous system, which is very important during this process, and to help you work through your energetic blocks. And then we have got the school, Kaylee and I, which take you step by step on this journey and help give you the tools. And we give you specific courses to help you work through the journey. So those, of course, are all going to be like straightforward tools for yourself. But I love all these things that people can do. You know, the big thing is like settle your nervous system. And then, you know, maybe free write journaling can be helpful for like identifying where you're at, because if your nervous system is so frantic, it's going to be hard to understand where you are in this journey. So like settle that nervous system. And I do want to say, hopefully this is okay to say, but I do want to just put it out there that we have been talking, Jan and Kaylee and I have been talking about creating an offer for all of you where we're going to combine our offers to make it much more affordable for you to use all these tools readily and to get it in one go. That's part of something that we're doing. So look forward to that. If you are really wanting those tools and you don't know what to pick, we will be doing that soon.
I am so looking forward to launching that. I can't wait. I can't wait because people will have access to all of that.
Yeah, we're stoked.
Well, I think that about wraps up everything. Thank you guys so much for your wisdom and your insight and just bringing such beautiful light to such a confusing experience. And thank you very much. And I guess that's everything. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening and share with someone you know. See you next week.